Why is the E32 the best generation of 7 Series for me?
The more I drive my new 7, the more I enjoy it.
The interior is dominated by luxury and technical comfort.
It's one of the best things I've ever made in my life.
Why is the E32 the best generation of 7 Series for me? I don't think it can be objectively judged what 7 Series generation is the best. I think E32 in general gets very bad credit, and I think most people don't actually know much about E32s. They are kind of unrecognized treasure in BMW history. There is also a lot of rubbish and misinformation spread about E32 on the internet in general, especially from the times of these internet forums where there was a lot of hate for the V12 engines, a lot of hate for the reliability. So what motivated me to do this video is also recent video made by Doug DeMuro and his podcast friends. They ranked E32 generation as the worst.
Worst, and it's hard to say this, but the worst is the E32. The E32 is, I'll be honest with you, there's not a single E32 in the world that isn't clapped out.
But when you think 7 Series, you think E38 followed by the E65. You just do.
And that really fueled me to do this kind of video, because I think with these kind of comparisons, this is obviously the endless debate. What is the best 7 Series of them all? But you need to put some sort of objective measure to the debate, and you need to put some sort of perspective. You need to look at what BMW was actually trying to achieve with each generation of 7 Series, because it might be completely different goal. When was the development being done? What was the goal? But first, I think it's important to say in 90s and 80s specifically, we are talking about business class. Back in this time, you could either choose and tune big limousines, either on the comfort side or sporty side. So you would have this scale where you would have to choose between the settings. So historically, Mercedes, and I would also say Lexus maybe, is more tuned for the comfy setting, maybe not so well performing in the corners, but still very, very comfortable, very soft. All the instruments are being operated with less force and very easy, like the steering and everything. And then you would have historically and typically, for example, BMW and Jaguar, who would probably do something more sporty, more driver-oriented. But still, we are talking about business class, the biggest, most spacious, most luxurious limousines, and still up to this date, the pinnacle of automotive technology, design, and everything what is possible. Not every single generation of 7 Series is actually set up in the same way. That's very important to stress. Yes, historically, BMWs were always set up on a more sporty side, more driver-focused than, for example, Mercedes. The way they were set up on this scale was not the same in terms of each generation of 7 Series. And that is very important to note. It changes massively from the first generation to the second, to the third, and to the fourth. So let's talk about the actual generations of 7 Series. Obviously, E32 is the second generation of 7 Series, but I think we are forgetting a little bit of history when we admit to the fact that there was nothing before that. In the 50s and 60s, BMW was already competing with Mercedes in this segment. Historically, you can go back to BMW 501 and 502. and you can go to Mercedes Heckfloss or Fintail, if you like the first predecessors of 7 Series and S-Class. Before the first generation of 7 Series, there was actually another generational clash, I would say. BMW E3 and Mercedes 116. Then you move to the first generation of 7 Series. It's E23 and it's the lightest of all generations of 7 Series. In general, the car would weigh, depending on the engine, between 13 to 1500 kilos. So it was relatively light, and it's the lightest 7 Series of them all. It's the most nimblest, and it's also the only 7 Series which was converted to a race car, and actually a class-winning race car. So if you're looking for the most sporty 7 Series, I cannot think of anything else than E23, simply because of its weight, simply because of its racing history, and simply because it's so easy to transform into a track-performing car without unnecessary ballast of technology. So it was a Shark-era racer. Then you have the second generation of E32, and most people mix E32 with Mercedes W140, but it actually was developed against W126 S-Class. Then you have the E38, third generation of 7 Series, which is the Bond car, and I think universally the most loved 7 Series. Probably the car that receives the best feedback in terms of the BMW culture, BMW scene. So mainly thanks to this generation, E32 is actually quite overlooked, although they share a lot of similar or identical engines and technology. E65, E66, 67 and 68, the Bengal era 7 Series, which is on the heavy side. It's actually 100 and something kilos heavier than E38, which is already 2.1 something tons heavy. So these two generations are really beginning to getting big and heavy and comfort oriented. My experience with these cars is, obviously I have passion for E32, that's what I focus most, and this is the ultimate question, or the golden questions for me personally, but also for this workshop. Why E32? If I count the existing cars and cars that I already sold, I have probably had 29 different E32s over the last 7-8 years. Most of them V12s, some V8s, and also some 6-cylinders. I also had 5 different E23s, so first generation of 7 Series. I had pretty good experience driving this car, this generation of 7 Series. I happen to also have the E3 generation. Back then the BMWs were quite floaty like Citroën, and I'm quite fortunate enough to have in family also BMW 503 and have some experience with 502, so Barogengel and late 50s BMWs, which technologically are predecessors to then the 7 Series. Also from the Bengal era, I had in total 3 cars, if I'm not mistaken, all of them V12s, including security version, the most latest 760 Li individual maritime. So I am fortunate enough to have actually daily driven, serviced, sold first 4 generations of 7 Series. But you can already see that I'm quite omitting the E38. So unfortunately, I only had 1. But I can't really count it as because it's a donor car. But I had driven E38s multiple times. I think maybe 6 different cars, 740s, 750s, vanos, no vanos, long wheelbase, short wheelbase. So I can say I actually have driving experience with all 7 Series generations, and I'm not trying to say that to do anything else, just to add some weight maybe on my experience and the reason why I believe E32 is the best generation, at least for me. That brings me to the introduction to the E32 lineup. This car has been developed for 7 years between 79 and 86, and it entered production in 86 and stayed in sale for until 94. Originally, the first models were 6 cylinders, 730, 735, 3 liter and 3.5, V12, 750, and later in 92, 2 V8 models were added to the lineup. As we discussed, it was mainly focused on competitor Mercedes W126. It was in a class of business class limousines. It was relatively expensive car back in the day, especially if you're talking about 750. It costed around easily around 100,000 Deutschmarks or $70,000. And famously, the V12 caught the imagination of BMW enthusiasts and also back then of the press. It was the first post-war German V12. And when it was introduced, there was basically just the Jaguar that was doing a V12 model. Anything else was basically Italian, meaning Lamborghini or Ferrari. I actually have a book from the development. One page in the book, it shows a picture. Description of the photo says, this is before the official unveiling of the car. This is where we, with some journalists, were doing free driving and comparison driving with different cars. And on the picture there, you can see what was BMW actually aiming towards. There was obviously Mercedes W126, but there were also 2 Mercedes W124. There was Audi 200 in the picture. There was BMW E32 745 in the picture. There is Ford Scorpio in the picture. So when you look at the development, it was clearly developed in the early 80s, and advertisement that promoted the 750, especially from the time when this was introduced in 86, 87, is something I want to share with you. So if you look at the advertisement, what it says about 750, it tells you a lot about what BMW was trying to sell and achieve and say about this car. So, for example, this slogan: never before has anyone built a car that performs quite like BMW 7 Series, not even BMW. Engineering more akin to corporate jet than a corporate car. The luxury car as only BMW could envision it. And this is my favorite. A car built around philosophy, built around a driver. And my most favorite one: open the hood of your car. It tells you something about people who designed it. And I think this is really aimed at Jaguar because that was the only V12 limousine back at the time. And if you open the hood on 750 V12 engine and compare it with Jaguar V12, the Jaguar just looks like people with shovels were putting things under the bonnet. BMW, on the other hand, looks completely organized, beautiful. The car from the scratch is actually made for V12 engine, and everything is placed and organized perfectly. E32 engine compartment is probably one of the most nicest engine compartments of any limousines ever made. 750 has a famous M70B50 engine. It's 5-liter V12 with 2-valve technology, 300 horsepower, 460 Newton meters, and top speed electronically limited to 250, 0 to 100, 7.4 seconds. The official weight of 750 IL flagship is 1,860 kilos. But if you look at the full range of E32s, it actually starts at 1,600. E32 is actually a very light car, given the fact how much of equipment it can have and given the fact how heavy the V12 engine actually is. If you look back into '86, I think E32 was technological marvel when it was introduced. It featured so many electronic and IT solutions that were never before put together in a single car. It's mesmerizing for me that it's still reliable and these functions still work today. And most of the owners don't actually know about these features at all. E32 is the first production car ever to feature xenon headlights. So every car today has xenon headlights, and they started in E32. Another feature that was first in E32 was pedal without the cable and purely electric drive-by-wire throttle. Similar to, for example, Airbus, a joystick. Only 750s had that, and I didn't even know there is no cable between the pedal and the engine. There is EML system that calibrates how much of the throttle you have, and it translates it to electronic data and gives the data to the engine, purely using electricity. It was also the first European car to feature ABS as a standard equipment, and it was also the first car in the world that introduced the electronically limited top speed of 250 kilometers per hour. This was the first BMW that had 2 airbags, for example. First BMW with double glazed windows, which are actually thicker than any other 7 Series that followed, including E38 and E65. It had lock functions, which is completely normal nowadays, but when you lock the car with a key, it will automatically put up all the windows and close the roof window. This car had parking sensors front and back, something that people get surprised to this date on a car from 91 or 92. It had famous Nivo suspension, which is actually notoriously known for its leaking and for its servicing, but when it works, and it can work, it can be serviced, it's a self-leveling hydraulic rear suspension that allows the car to have exactly the same height on the rear axle, regardless of the payload of the car. It had EDC, electronically controlled dampers, where you had sport and comfort settings. It had dual zone climate control with a lot of functions actually. It could be equipped with fridge and rear seats table. It was first BMW equipped with a 4-piston sports brake in the front as a sport option, electronically controlled sport, comfort and winter mode for the automatic transmissions. I know that the older generations of automatic gearboxes had some sort of settings, but this was electronically computerized with ECU, and it was linked to the throttle, it was linked to the ACS safety system. It has tilting out passenger mirror that tilts when you put reverse. Actually, I never knew this, but 750s, they have automatically heated mirrors and the bottom side of the windscreen where you have the wipers. There is no button to operate it. They operate completely silent and automatically depending on the outside temperature. And I think you can see a lot of Bosch and Siemens components in E32, and BMW work very close in development with these companies. And this is the time, 86, crazy 80s on the Wall Street and generally in the Western world. A lot of cocaine, a lot of mobile phones are becoming flashy. Everyone wanted a mobile phone in the Western world. The first ever mobile phone developed by Siemens was called C1, and it was actually a briefcase, which was quite big to hold. But BMW found a way how to integrate that briefcase into the car so that the briefcase is in the trunk and you just have the phone in the front. And it was completely integrated with the car, including the hands-free function. You can just accept the call and speak freely in the car, but the car came equipped with the setup and technology, with the antennas and with the charging and everything already built in for that phone, so you can just opt it for the Siemens or Motorola phone or whatever you wanted. Believe it or not, it had also rain sensors. If you just go to the wiper settings, there are so many weird things about the wipers and the washers. When you have the wipers in the first position, the wipers wipe every 14 seconds when you stand. But when you increase the speed, it will wipe more often, depending on the speed. incorporating speed input measuring to some ECU that computes how the wipers are working. Then you have a second setting where you can set up manually the interval you want your wipers to wipe. 2.3 seconds, 4.3 seconds, 6.7 seconds, as you like. And not only that, but it also integrates the speed into it. If you just look at the two reservoirs for the washer, right, you usually have one, but E32s have two, because you would have the normal water and the intensive water, and you would have the intensive wash, which means that the car would spray for you for a little bit longer, much more water would come on the windscreen, and also it would choose the water from the intensive reservoir. So the idea was that you would put more concentrated washer there and less concentrated washer for everyday use. E32, for example, has fog lights washers that are hidden somewhere there, and with this intensive care, it washes the fog lights also with the headlights. So I can continue on, and I'm pretty sure that the list actually is much longer. And to this date, I'm learning new things that E32 has. And BMW wasn't really interested in highlighting these with buttons and marketing. They were just hidden in the literature. So that shows me that this is the era of BMWs when development people, engineers were actually playing the prime, and they were actually developing the cars so they could be objectively good. They were not focused on the marketing and surfacing these, showing off these functions with some flashy buttons, with some flashy menus or something like that. A lot of functions were actually hidden. It's there for the benefit of the owner, and he doesn't need to know it's there. So as we have discussed the E32 and the development of IT computing technology in the late 80s, you can see it clearly here as well, because this is the diagnostic socket for E32. And if you look at it from here, you see it has a lot more pins than, for example, the Shark era cars. That also had diagnostics, so BMW has developed a special toolbox and special IT computers, if you like, and diagnostic tools to accommodate more and more data that were flowing from the car to the computer. So this is probably the smallest diagnostic computer you could use at BMW service in late 80s for E32. So with this thing here, but you can switch in between oil service and inspection, and those two things are actually what your board computers is telling you about the service and interval. So the computer shows you that you have this much to the next oil change or the next inspection of the engine, but the computer doesn't know that you have actually changed the oil. How does the car know? You tell it by this. When you change oil and when you do engine inspection, you insert it inside of the diagnostic box. You select between inspection and oil service. But this is the smallest diagnostic computer, if you like, the most basic one for E32. And if you go to the biggest one, this is from 85, I think, based on the literature which goes with it. So this is Sun Computer 2013, and this is the whole diagnostic box, basically the big one for the BMW service centers. I hear that there was even a bigger one for BMW factory or for the, I don't know, main dealers, but this is the main one they used on Shark era cars. And you can find it in BMW catalogs for E32 as well. So here you can see probably the previous cars in terms of how many pins they have and how big the socket is and how much information they transmit. So how this would work, I believe, looking at it purely as a fanboy of technology, is that this is your monitor that you switch on, switch off. and it just shows you what you insert into that. So you would have, for example, something like this which is BMW M20 L-Jetronic from 86. So this is the engine slides, if you like, and you can see here it's probably 90 slides. So you put it inside. I remember some of these machines from my school actually. So you would change slide here, and it would show you some information about the engine, whatever that was. Then you would put the diagnostic sockets. It has actually quite a lot of diagnostics wiring and sensors, even a pistol. I don't know what for, if it is for lights or what. So you would have various different things that you could measure, from lambda sounds to electric diagnostics, engines, mostly engine and exhaust. So you would plug that into the car, and on this monitor here, if we can start it up, I don't know where is the cable. If you can start it up, you would see the diagnostic codes the cars will show you, basic ones, including for the E32 if you have the reduction. And then you could do some measurements here, and then you can print out to the customer whatever you've been doing. You can set up the display brightness here, as I understand. So this is Sun Computer 2013, possibly the equivalent of modern tablet diagnostics. So this is how computers evolved. So initially they were huge. This is small. Originally they were much bigger in the late 70s, but at 85 this was diagnostic computer. And if you move then to the newer cars like 2006, 2005, 7, Bengal era 7 series, you would just have this. You just have one display and one computer with much less but much more powerful diagnostic sockets and reductions to plug into your car. And obviously it can work with the reduction on the older cars, but yeah, I don't know the specific of it. But in reality, it's much easier nowadays to just plug in with a laptop or tablet and see everything. So if you go back into that time, I see here envelope from BMW AG, posted on October 28th, 1986. But back in the time when you wanted a mobile upgrade of your diagnostic tool, you would receive an envelope from BMW with new films. And, and these new films were the equivalent of upgrading your computer to the newest data. So this is 84, older ones. But yeah, you have, I don't know how many, but possibly hundreds and hundreds of, I'm not sure if you can see it here, there's hundreds of different pages on this single film. You would have so much information as in a huge book, basically. And you get all of this once per year from BMW, and that's it. This is how computers worked back in the day in mid-80s when this car was developed. Yeah, and if you then just go through whatever these guys left inside of this box, I bought it from some old serviceman in Germany, and I find it fascinating, really. Like original BMW antenna cleaner, right? So to clean your antenna, original spark plug boxing. How beautiful is that? Even the logos and font and everything on these things was super nice. And I found in this box that the guy was also doing a Volvo service. This is a Volvo sticker for belt change. And I found at the complete bottom of BMW files, I found this. So whoever that guy was also repairing Volvos. And this is how Volvo sends you information in paper, right? So how many of these papers you would have to have instead of millions of pages in these films that you get from BMW. So that's just comparison in the mid-80s between paper approach and fully computerized approach. And that's why this may look funny nowadays, this type of Asian technology, but this is actually how all IT companies evolved over the time, and BMW was evolving with them. Sun microprocessors are still used today, and they did the first diagnostic tools. Here, this one is made by Siemens. So BMW was really with these cars, and especially in 80s, their electronic department and electronic development was really ahead of competition. Imagine in 86, the car would tell you not only that the door is open, but also that the rear trunk is open, the bonnet is open, the brakes are worn, you have insufficient coolant, oil, engine oil, transmission oil, hydraulic oil level, washer level low. You have open windows, there is black ice warning or various different functions, Nivo suspension fail. And there is a lot of logic behind it. This one showed you date, year, average consumption, range, average speed, outside temperature. You could set up speed limit on the car with the gong. You have the reset button for all the different functions. You have hidden menus there where you can check another details about the car, like temperatures. You have stopwatch. I don't know why, but you have stopwatch. So it was actually, from IT perspective, for 86, this was high-tech IT stuff. So there's a story about how Czechoslovakia broke up. Our two back then prime ministers from Slovakia and Czech Republic, Mr. Mečiar and Mr. Klaus, they met on a famous press conference before the journalists. They said to the public that the Czechoslovakia will dissolve into two countries. Guess what cars they were driving? They were driving BMW E32, and they really made the effort to come with exactly the same spec car, so that no one is seen superior, no one is seen having a better equipped car. Both of these cars had the narrow nose, so there were 6 cylinders back then, because those were very early models from 86 or 87. The color was on both cars the same. It was Atlantis Blau. Both were short wheel-based car. And this was the definition of ultimate BMW for me. I actually realized there is a lot more to the design when you see the car in the flesh. So for me, this is the pinnacle of BMW design. This is the ultimate BMW design with 4 round headlights, correctly sized kidneys, mostly boxy lines, but not that sharp. And if you look at the sideline of the car, there is one line which copies the whole car, and then it goes up. And actually, when you look closely, there is a built-in spoiler on each E32, something that you cannot find on any other BMW. And another thing in terms of design which I like about E32 is the curvature you have on the bonnet. So most BMWs, the boot lid is just flat, but on E32 it actually goes down a little. It was designed by 3 designers under the leadership of Klaus Lute, and there were 2 designers, Italian and a German designer, Ercole Spada, and a German designer, Hans Kerschbaum. And these guys, when you watch the video of them explaining how they did the design, it's one of the first BMWs that was ever designed with the rear passenger in mind. So technically, it's still BMW, and engineers still focus on the driver, but design language of the car is actually centered around the rear end of the car. So they explain that the design is the widest by the rear doors. And it's also known that this is the first 7 Series, which was developed first as a long wheelbase car, and then the short wheelbase car was just shortened by, I think, 11 centimeters in the rear section. You can see features of that design language in next generations of 7 Series. The development cost of E32 was apparently around 600 million pounds. It's in today's money, it's probably a couple of billions or more than 1 billion probably. You can feel the car was expensive to develop. You can feel it was well developed. You can feel the car was expensive back in the day. And you have completely different vibe from the car than from a 5 Series or 3 Series. And that's mostly because of the design and mostly because of the technology used in the car. And I completely agree that the E38 is probably the most recognized design of all 7 Series. It's a little bit more flashy, I would say. It's a little bit bigger car. The design is more mammoth-like. I think it has something to do with the competitor against which the E38 was developed, and that's the biggest and the best and the most famous Mercedes of all time, the famous W140. And you can see the influence of that Mercedes in the next generations of 7 Series. But E32 is lighter car. Design language is not so, I would say, vulgar. I think it's much more conservative. It's much more classical. I would say I feel the presence of an Italian designer on the design. Italians famously have this language of sharp front and really beautiful ass. That's what they call it. And I think you can see that language in E32. That's the design I prefer the most. And then there is a second thing I love about E32, and that's the way it drives. So in this episode, we have to mention Professor Wolfgang Reitzel, the head of development of BMW, who, in my opinion, is the godfather of E32. Why? Because he became head of development of BMW right at the end of E32 development time, probably 1.5 years before the original launch of the car. And he came to the BMW CEO and said, we need to stop the project and we need to make the car 4 centimeters wider and we need to put V12 in it in order to beat Mercedes. And this became the theme of E32 itself. BMW CEO has greenlighted the project, and the idea of beating Mercedes at their own game for the first time became the underlying motivation within BMW. So BMW was already 1 billion of Deutschmarks in development and hasn't originally planned to put V12 in it. That's what not many people know, and it has changed right at the last minute. And the way it changed is also fascinating to me. So Mr. Reitzel, apparently he came to Mr. Fischer, head of or development engineer for engines, and this was his project to make a brand new V12 engine, because BMW had no V12 engine, and they made that in a record time because the whole delay of E32 development was just 10 months from the original launch day. So the small change of 4 centimeters actually plays a big role of why I absolutely love the design of E32. And in the book of 7 years of development of 7 Series by BMW, you can actually see the first prototypes. And I have to say, I wouldn't like E32 that was so narrow as they originally planned. So it has really helped the design a lot. And they changed the design around that, dimensions change a lot, also the headlights. So you can see that in the book, how the design evolved and how it became what it is now. And this car was aimed at Mercedes W126. Historically, the smallest, the lightest S-Class maybe of all times. If you look at the previous S-Class, it was gigantic compared to E23. It looked like these two cars were not even from the same segment. So Mr. Reitzle has actually sensed the opportunity correctly to beat Mercedes at their own game in the luxury segment. And this move has really surprised Mercedes, who was already developing the new S-Class, the W140, to which this car is not responding to, but which is responding to this car. And what is interesting to me is that Mr. Reitzle has said that because of this dimension change of E32 and because of the V12, also the size of W140 has increased a lot. We all know that Mercedes has overshoot the development by 2.5 years, but we didn't know that, at least I didn't know that also the size and dimensions of the new S-Class has changed because of E32. So if you are a Mercedes fan, if you are especially the W140 fan, you have to pay credit to this team of BMW, Mr. Reitzle and E32, because the W140 wouldn't be the same without E32. And if you are BMW fan and from some reason or another you like to glorify some other eras of BMW that followed after E32, you have to pay respect to the fact that E32 has allowed that. And E32 was at the beginning of these glorification times for BMW, because at that time, late 80s, early 90s, I don't think there has ever been a time when BMW was dominating Mercedes technologically and design-wise as well, and commercially as well, as much as back then. And how do we know that E32 has beaten commercially the W126? Well, you can just look at the period magazines, you can just read the reviews, you can just read what other people had to say about those two cars, and you can just drive both cars and see the difference for yourself. But you can also compare the spec of the cars, you can compare the equipment, the technology used. And for me, just one tiny thing, look at how you change temperature in the AC unit in E32 and compare it with Mercedes. Mercedes was asleep at the time and they didn't expect this move. And what followed after E32 was that the whole segment has changed. It grew in size, it grew in weight, it grew in complicated technology being packed into the cars, and it became massive. Those cars after E32 became massive. Even the E38 is way much heavier than E32 with the same engine, and same goes for the Mercedes, which is the heaviest S-Class of all time, or maybe until recently. So this has followed, and this is all thanks to the E32. And the reason why I'm sitting in this car in particular, and the reason why I chose this car to speak about this is quite emotional for me, because this is my first E32. And when I was buying it from Germany, from a town called Heidelberg, the gentleman who was selling me the car, the son of the second owner, has said to me that his father told him that when he bought the car from the dealer in Heidelberg, the dealer told him that this car has actually served as a board member car in 1992. This is a 1992 car. So I contacted BMW Archive and asked them if they can confirm that this was in fact a board member's car. And obviously they responded that due to data protection laws, they cannot name any individuals, but they confirmed that BMW has owned this car for the first 2 years, and then in 94 it was sold through that dealer to this gentleman. From 1992 to 1994, this car has served as a company car for BMW AG, confirmed by them. We don't know who drove the car, but ask yourself a question. Between 1992 and 1994, who at BMW factory or company could have had as a company car BMW 750 IL with this phone inside, Siemens C1, the most advanced and most expensive phone ever fitted to a car? We can just guess, we don't know, but in 92, BMW had 5 board members, and if this was a board member's car, then there is a 40% chance that it was driven by either E32 godfather, Mr. Reitzler, or BMW CEO who greenlighted E32 with a V12 engine in it. So it's just coincidence that this is my first E32, and this is probably the reason why I will never sell this car, and the reason why I have emotional connection to this car, because at the time, through this phone, probably people were discussing important things. You know, that at the time it was already in production, so they were probably discussing later models. But someone who made these decisions about E32 that influenced the car industry as we know it was most likely using this car as a company car, which is amazing. This is the car that brought the brand to the same level as Mercedes. If you are looking at BMW as a brand, as a equal to Mercedes as a brand, nowadays, it's thanks to E32. It's thanks to this model, because it was for the first time that BMW has beaten, and maybe the last time, I don't know, has beaten Mercedes at their own game with luxury limousine. Whether you are Mercedes fan, whether you are BMW fan, whether you are Pagani fan, whether you are McLaren fan, you have to take credit to the origin of the story, and that is E32 and Mr. Wolfgang Reitzl. When I want a youngtimer or classic 7 Series, something older than the new one, I'm looking at sensations like hearing the engine, smelling the engine, feeling the transmission shift, feedback from the steering wheel, going through the corners, what the car does, how it handles. These sort of old school type of feelings you still get in E32. And it's still very communicative and very fun car to drive. The platform is really a sporty platform. They were advertising the car's sportiness in a way that it drives really well for a business class sedan. Journalists from 80s actually confirmed that handling, engine, suspension, brakes, steering, all of these were the quality remarks of the E32, and also one of the main reasons why the car sold so well, because it was a limousine for the backseat owner, but still a driver's limousine. So it's a very unique combination, and I really love that. If you want the most raw experience, you go even for the first generation of 7 Series. On top of that sharkness or shark era emotions that you get from the first gen and maybe even the older cars, E32 provides you all of that, but it also provides you with everyday comfort and everyday usability. This is a car, first 7 Series generation, that you can, in 2025, load your kids in the back, load your wife with your things, and go anywhere. 1,000 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers. You have aircon, you have everything electronically controlled, you have cruise speed. The only thing I'm missing in these cars is the quality of lights at the night and possibly the sound system, but that can be easily worked with. And the third thing makes the E32 the best 7 Series generation is the hidden character of the car. This is the undiscovered 7 Series. Nobody is talking about it. It's nobody's favorite. It's forgotten. There are rumors about the car which are untrue and which are actually horrible. The whole car is actually forgotten. It's because the whole vibe of the car is on a conservative side and it's hidden. And the same philosophy goes to the million features inside of the car that I just discussed, and it's the whole vibe of the car. You have a V12, 5-liter, 300 horsepower engine in 86. You start it and you probably expect some sort of Ferrari rumble and note, but it's quiet. And that's the whole philosophy of the luxury business class segment. It's supposed to be quiet, it's supposed to be conservative, it's supposed to be complete opposite of flashy Italian supercars. So this is what I love about the car, but it's probably, unfortunately, makes the car really difficult to discover to the masses. The BMW community falls in love quicker with the better sounding M3s, M5s, sports cars, cars that were racing, cars that were on posters, cars that have that M motorsport colors on them. But this is engineering miracle, and this is also a design exercise, E32, that is based on hiding the actual potential. And the last and fourth thing why I think the E32 is the best generation of 7 Series is the reliability and high quality. I don't think that there was ever any BMW, and possibly this is gonna be a big claim, any other car that has better interior quality than BMW E32. Look at how the leather and the plastics and the buttons and the clothes look in this car after 30 years. I have a car which has 500,000 kilometers on the clock, which is brand new from inside. Similar thing is usually said about the next generation E38, but if you are E38 or E39 or E53 owner, which is that generation of X5, you know that most of the buttons are broken inside. You know that there are small buttons inside that are broken. You know how the leather looks after 200, 300,000 kilometers. Look at the buffalo leather in E32 and you will not find a place where the leather is broken. So the only thing inside which is very low quality is the glue. The sealing is put together, so obviously the fabric falls down and needs to be glued back or reupholstered, but unfortunately that is to do with the glue they used. In terms of the body panel, in terms of the buttons, in terms of the controls, and also in terms of the electronics. Just imagine how much of gadgets, how much of ECUs, how much of electronic sensors you have inside of fully loaded E32 750iL. It's still working today. Addressing some of the rumors, some misinformation or information about E32, especially the V12 engine. So people are quite sad about three things on E32, and that's Nivo suspension, connected hydraulic system, EDCs, EDC dampers, and the hydraulic system for the steering and for brakes and everything. This is actually nothing to do with the design, with the interior and with the engine itself. All of these are secondary systems. And yes, they require, at this time and age, a lot of maintenance, and some of the parts for them are not easily sourced, and some of them are not available anymore. For example, the brake booster is a main issue. Every brake booster can start leak on V12 engines. We have a solution for that. We produce our own reduction inside of the brake booster. EDC dampers are famously unreliable in terms of after 20 years or 30, yes, they start leaking. So I'm not sure it's fair to say they are unreliable. Look at any other dampers, electronically controlled dampers after 20 or 30 years of hard use. And the Nivo suspension, as I said, 9 of 10 cars don't have it working properly, and you can easily spot it by the car sitting as a duck on its rear end. So unfortunately, it's tricky to get the system serviced, but we do service these things. So it's just a matter of knowing what to expect and how to deal with it. The V12 deserves any bad reputation because from 29 different E32s, honestly, there was just one that we weren't able to start, and that's a donor car that we bought and didn't really try much. Every other car, including the car with 500,000 kilometers, with a bit of service, knowing what to look for, with a bit of service, the engine works perfectly. The engine is made for 1 million kilometers and more, and gearbox can do 700,000 kilometers. So that means that the drivetrain and the car itself is extremely reliable. And if you know these little things that needs to be addressed and can easily be addressed by garage that knows E32s, there is no reason why E32 should be considered unreliable. And if you look at the easier models like 6 cylinders and V8s, which don't have EDCs, for example, or wouldn't have necessarily the Nivo suspension, these cars are completely bulletproof and have absolutely no issue whatsoever. This is one of the most reliable and best built BMW period. Best looking and most iconic designs BMW ever made that influence many other generations of BMW going forward. Its design is beautiful, and I think it's the most fun 7 Series to drive, and to communicate with, to live with. It's probably the most fun 7 Series, irrespective of the engine you have in it. I can enjoy driving E32 slow, fast, in the corner, on the highway, in the city, parking it, just vibing with it. And I think we will speak more about E32s in future. So thank you for watching, and see you.